Welcome to this deep dive into the world of Marcus Aurelius.
Ooh.
We're going to be unhacking some pretty insightful scholarly analysis of his famous meditations.
Yeah.
Now, you might be thinking, another dead philosopher, like what's in it for me?
Right.
But trust me, this isn't your typical dusty history lesson.
Exactly.
That way.
Meditations wasn't meant to be like some grand treatise.
Right.
Imagine like a personal journal,
Oh.
like raw, honest reflections from an emperor
Okay.
facing the same human struggles we all do.
Yeah.
It's like a window into a mind, like wrestling with life's big questions under immense pressure.
Yeah, and let's not forget,
Right.
Aurelius wasn't just theorizing about Stoicism from an ivory tower.
Oh.
This was a man living his philosophy while leading an empire through plagues, wars, you name it.
Absolutely.
Crazy.
We're talking about someone who embraced rigorous self-discipline from youth.
Wow.
Despite being surrounded by wealth and power,
Yeah.
to like later on the challenges of ruling an empire,
Yep.
stretching from the Euphrates River to the Atlantic Ocean.
Good Lord.
Talk about pressure.
Yeah.
His writing reflects this.
Okay.
There's a quote about the rude realities of human existence,
Yeah.
which really highlights how his philosophy was forged in the fire of experience.
It makes you wonder, how did he even find time to journal with all that going on?
Right.
But seriously, like, it's that lived experience that makes his reflections so powerful, right?
Right.
You can tell he's not just spouting theories.
Well,
He's grappling with these ideas amidst the chaos of his life.
right. And what's fascinating is,
Yeah.
even as a champion of Stoicism,
Mm-hmm.
Aurelius wasn't immune to doubt.
Yeah.
He wrestled with tough questions,
Okay.
like the problem of evil.
Right.
If the universe is inherently good,
Yeah.
why is there so much suffering?
Right.
It's something a lot of us ponder,
Oh, yeah.
And it's interesting to see how even Aurelius grappled with it.
It reminds me of that passage where he talks about Zeus's two casks. One filled with good, one with bad, randomly distributed to humans.
Yeah.
It's such a vivid image
Yes.
that highlights this tension between a good universe and the undeniable presence of suffering.
That's a great point. And then you have
Yeah.
Epictetus,
Okay.
another prominent Stoic,
Yeah.
who takes a completely different stance.
Interesting.
He flat out states that the nature of evil does not exist in the universe.
Wow.
Talk about contrasting viewpoints.
Yeah, that's a bold statement.
Yeah.
It's like they're approaching the same fundamental question from completely different angles.
Exactly. And Aurelius himself,
Yeah.
while considering these different perspectives,
Okay.
seems to land on this idea.
Huh.
Evil doesn't inherently make us worse people,
Mm-hmm.
so it can't truly make life itself worse.
Okay.
It's about recognizing our power to choose how we respond.
That's deep.
Yeah.
It's like he's saying that our internal state, our virtue, matters more than the external circumstances we face. Which is a perfect segue into another key aspect of his philosophy, this idea of living according to nature.
Yes.
I like it.
It's a concept that might seem simple on the surface,
Okay.
but it goes much deeper.
Yeah.
Think of it as living in alignment with both our own rational, social nature and the nature of the universe itself.
Oh, okay.
It's about recognizing our place in the grand scheme of things.
This resonates so much with that modern idea of finding your purpose, your why.
Right.
It's like Aurelius was saying that by understanding our own nature and our place in the universe, we can unlock a deeper sense of meaning and fulfillment.
And for Aurelius, a big part of that was
Yeah.
actively contributing to the well-being of the community.
Okay.
The larger whole.
Yeah.
He uses this beautiful metaphor of the bee and the hive.
Oh, yeah.
Just as a bee works tirelessly for the good of the hive, so too should we strive to contribute to society.
So it's not just about finding our individual purpose,
Right.
but about aligning that purpose with something bigger than ourselves, right? This idea that what's good for the whole is ultimately good for the individual.
Exactly. And this brings us to another important question for you.
Okay.
Have you defined your purpose?
Oh,
And how does that purpose connect to the greater good?
that's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a powerful idea to consider.
It is.
And speaking of purpose,
Right?
it seems Aurelius was also deeply concerned with the idea of virtue. From what I understand, the Stoics saw virtue as the ultimate good.
Yeah.
But what does that really mean in practical terms?
Well, you're touching upon a core concept in Stoic philosophy.
Okay.
To them, virtue was the sole source of true happiness.
Okay.
Everything else.
Yeah.
Wealth, health, even life and death.
Wow.
These were considered indifference.
Indifferent.
Things outside our control.
Okay.
Not inherently good or bad.
Right.
They shouldn't be the foundation of our well-being.
So it's not that these things are bad.
Right.
It's more about not getting too attached,
Yeah.
not letting them dictate our happiness or unhappiness. Okay.
Aurelius believed true happiness comes from cultivating virtue
Okay.
and justice.
Yeah.
He saw as the bedrock of all virtue.
Okay.
Acting justly wasn't just a moral obligation.
All right.
It actually led to clearer thinking.
Oh, interesting.
Like being just allowed you to see the world more accurately, to make better decisions.
It's almost like ethical behavior was a mental advantage, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And truthfulness was equally vital,
Okay.
not just in our words,
Mm-hmm.
but in our thoughts.
Right.
Truth was essential for intellectual honesty, for seeing things as they really are.
There's this quote that struck me.
Yeah.
Virtue alone is indivisible, one and perfectly satisfying.
Yeah.
Such a stark statement in today's world where we're bombarded with messages about what will supposedly make us happy.
Right.
It makes you wonder, what do we find truly fulfilling?
Excellent question.
Yeah.
And as you ponder that, let's shift gears a bit to another aspect of Aurelius's philosophy that's been hugely influential.
Oh, okay.
The idea of finding inner peace amidst chaos.
Hmm.
This is where his wisdom feels incredibly relevant to our modern lives.
I mean, who doesn't experience chaos these days?
Right.
Between work deadlines, social media overload, the 200/7 news cycle,
Yeah.
finding peace feels like a superpower.
I know, it's tough.
So how did Aurelius suggest we cultivate this inner tranquility?
He was adamant about controlling our thoughts,
Okay.
not letting ourselves be swept away by external events.
Right.
This is where that powerful image of the inner citadel comes in.
Ah, yes, the inner citadel. It sounds so fortress-like.
It does.
But what did he actually mean by that metaphor?
Aurelius said, the mind, which is free from passions, is a citadel.
Okay.
It's about creating this unshakable space within ourselves, a refuge from the storms of life.
Okay, I get the image, but how do we actually build this mental fortress?
Right.
Did Aurelius offer any practical advice?
He did, and it's surprisingly applicable today.
Okay.
Firstly, accepting what we cannot control.
Okay.
This isn't about being passive. It's about recognizing our limits.
Okay.
We simply can't have power over everything that happens.
That's a tough one, but I can see how surrendering to that truth could be freeing in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
Next, he urges us to focus on what is within our control. Our thoughts, our actions, our reactions. We may not control the challenges we face,
Right.
but we can choose how we respond.
So it's about shifting our focus from what's happening to us
Exactly.
to what's happening within us.
Exactly.
Got it.
And finally, cultivating a mindset of gratitude and acceptance, even towards those who've wronged us.
That's a high bar.
It is.
But it seems to be about finding that inner peace regardless of external circumstances,
Yeah.
which in today's world feels almost radical.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Aurelius lived in a time of immense upheaval,
Right.
yet he found solace in this inner strength.
Yeah.
He constantly reminded himself to focus on the present moment,
Mm.
to not get lost in anxieties about the future or regrets about the past. This is wisdom we can all draw upon, especially in our age of distractions.
It's like he's saying that true freedom isn't about controlling the external world,
Yeah,
but about mastering our internal world.
right.
And that mastery starts with being present.
Exactly.
Okay.
He also emphasized living in accordance with nature,
Yeah.
not just our own individual nature, but the nature of the universe itself.
Right.
It's a humbling perspective, realizing we're part of something so vast and intricate.
And within that vastness, we have the power to choose how we respond, how we act, how we treat others. That's where virtue comes back into play, right?
It is.
It's about aligning those choices with our highest selves.
And as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Marcus Aurelius,
Yeah.
I think he'd leave you with this question. In today's world, how do we create that inner citadel?
Oh.
What practices or principles can help us live a life more aligned with his wisdom?
It's a question worth pondering.
It is?
And honestly, it feels a bit daunting.
Yeah.
But maybe that's part of the challenge, right? To find those practices, those little anchors that help us stay grounded amidst all the noise.
Aurelius wouldn't have us approach it with a sense of dread.
Right.
He was all about aligning with nature,
Yeah.
finding that flow state.
Yeah.
He might suggest we look to the natural world for inspiration.
Like how?
Think about the simplicity of a tree, for example.
Okay.
It's deeply rooted, weathering storms.
Yeah.
Yet it also reaches for the sun,
Right.
constantly growing.
Right.
Maybe we can find our own inner rootedness
Okay.
through practices like mindfulness, meditation,
Okay.
even just taking time to connect with nature.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about finding those practices that nourish us, that help us become more resilient, like that tree.
And don't forget the importance of purpose and virtue that we talked about earlier.
Right.
Maybe part of creating that inner citadel is identifying the values we want to live by
Okay.
and then actively aligning our actions with those values. It's about becoming the person we aspire to be, even amidst chaos.
So it's both inner and outer work, right?
Exactly.
Cultivating that inner stillness while also living a life that reflects our values.
Exactly. And remember, Aurelius wasn't advocating for a life devoid of emotion.
Okay.
Stoicism isn't about becoming an emotionless robot.
Right.
It's about understanding our emotions, not being ruled by them,
Yeah.
and choosing our responses wisely.
Which, let's be honest, is probably something we all struggle with from time to time.
Of course, even Aurelius, with all his wisdom, acknowledged that
Yeah.
he saw life as this constant process of learning and growth,
Right.
of striving to live in accordance with virtue, even when we fall short.
That's actually really encouraging. It's not about achieving some perfect state of stoicism.
Right.
It's about the journey, the ongoing effort to align ourselves with those ideals. And honestly, I think that makes Aurelius' philosophy even more relevant today.
Yeah.
We're bombarded with messages about achieving perfection, but maybe it's more about embracing the imperfections, the struggles, and finding wisdom in those moments.
Well said.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the ultimate takeaway from our deep dive into Marcus Aurelius.
Okay.
He wasn't offering a rigid set of rules,
Right.
but rather a framework for navigating life's challenges with wisdom, resilience, and a deep commitment to virtue.
So, as we wrap up, I'm curious, what will you take away from this exploration of Aurelius' philosophy?
Right.
What resonated with you most? What will you try to integrate into your own life?
It's a great question to ponder, and I encourage you to keep exploring,
Yeah.
dive deeper into meditations, read other Stoic philosophers, see how their wisdom speaks to your own life.
Because ultimately, that's what this deep dive is all about. It's about sparking that curiosity, that desire to keep learning, keep growing, and keep finding those timeless insights that help us navigate this crazy, beautiful journey we call life.
Until next time, keep diving deep.